everyone, this is Annalise again, here with another demo. And so today we're going to be working again in a photo editor, and we're kind of be going over, I call them cookie cutter patterns, but the idea is that we're taking a standard outline or standard, like a cookie cutter shape, and we're going to be cutting that segment out of a bunch of different designs in order to create cookie cutter images. It'll make more sense once we get into it. So again, we're going to go to our resources. So right now we're on our homepage at cis.gvsu.edu/wic, and now we're going to go to resources.html. Right, we are looking at 6.3 cookie cutter art and photo editor, and here's the picture we're going to be using for today. As usual, right click Save Link As and drop it somewhere convenient. And we're going to get a photo editor up. If you have a Photoshop license or something comparable, was Adobe Illustrator or InDesign, those are fine. As usual, because I am poor, I will be going to the free online photopia.com, which is for all intents and purposes basically Photoshop in your browser. And so now what we can do is you can either open from a computer and select your file, or you can just drag it in. Alright, so today we have a rose. Let me just reset these. So we have this image. And the first thing we're going to want to do is trace out the design for essentially what is going to be our metaphorical cookie cutter. So we're going to kind of do what we were doing last time when we were doing minimalism or minimal vector art. Hit P for pen, or you can grab it from the sidebar down here. Make sure we're on shape and not the free pen, just the normal pen. Fill none. And now we're going to trace out all these petals. And if you end up making them into a bunch of different shapes, that's fine. You can always merge down to combine into one layer. Or I believe if you trace the shape and then use Control, you can put multiple different outlines on the same layer. Alright, so let's start tracing. Okay, cool. So we have all the petals, and now you'll notice we have a bunch of different layers, unless you did the shortcut I was mentioning earlier. So make sure they're all visible, and then we can just merge down one by one. So if you right-click on the layer, merge down, and notice it just combined these two. So now you can see that I have two highlighted, and we are going to repeat that process until we have one layer with all of our pieces. Alright, and notice all of our layers are surrounded in blue, and it looks like this one isn't, which is another good check, so we're just gonna grab that one as well too. Right, and okay. So now it looks like I finally got everything I wanted. And so I'm just going to rename this. I'm just going to call it cookie cutter. Right, and one other thing I'm going to grab just for fun. I'm going to use the wand. So W, to get to the magic wand is the one I like to use. And we could have technically used it on here, but as you'll see, it doesn't get the layers quite as precise as the pen would. However, I'm not too concerned about that with the leaves. I will just grab that really quickly. Oops. By the way, shortcuts, if you select something and you want to deselect, it's Control D, and then the selection lines go away. So I'm just going to grab the leaves really quickly, and I could also do the same thing we just did with the pen to grab them, but these aren't so big, so it should be fine. And to select multiple things within the same go, you can use, just keep the shift key down, keep holding that down as you select. Right, and just try to be as precise as you can. I went kind of fast with the rose petals, but just try if you can. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to do Control C, copy, create a new layer, and paste them in there. Alright, and if you click off the layer and back onto it, you should see the leaves have appeared. So if I make all of these other things invisible, you can see my leaves. Alright, so I'm going to put those back there, and our shape. So we've got this traced, but now we want to throw a different image over it. The pink is pretty, but we want something kind of fun. So we're going to open a new tab to grab an image, pixabay.com. Alright, the cool thing about Pixabay, that's Pixabay, they are royalty free, so there's no copyright on them, you don't have to pay to use them. There are a few restrictions, like you cannot just take an image from here and try to sell that image as is. You have to alter it in some way to show that you've changed it. But it's kind of cool because you can use these images for commercial use as well. So if you wanted to make like stickers for Redbubble, you could use these to work off of, as long as you, again, put some work into changing the image, don't leave it just as it is. And so what we're going to do is we're going to grab some backgrounds. And one other thing I should note, these come in a variety of sizes. If you want the higher sizes, you need to create a free account, but you should still be able to download for free without doing so. I want something cool to go over my rose. This would be okay. This would be kind of weird, but maybe. Anything? I guess this one's kind of cool. Maybe some water droplets. Ooh, some line slices. Watercolor is pretty cool. I've done that one before. So right now, pick out honestly whatever images that interest you. And we're going to be using our little cookie cutter that we just created to stamp out images from these. So once you have a couple, I'd recommend getting maybe get 5 just to practice the process. And by the way, just in case you didn't know, all I was doing is holding down Control before I clicked, which opens it up in a new tab. If you hold down Shift before you click, it'll open it up in a new window. So whatever works best for you. So all I'm going to do now is download some of these images. You're going to hit me with a reCAPTCHA, but it's free, so we'll do it. And like I said, I recommend getting maybe like 5 images would be a good amount. Maybe 6 if you wanted to create like a little sticker sheet. Hopefully you're not getting with all their captchas that I am. Also, if you do create an account with them, you don't have to do their captcha every time. But I'm on a private browser window, so sad times. And the last one. All right, so we've got all of our images, and if you're in Chrome, we'll all float to the bottom here. And so there's two ways you can do this. You can either drag the images into this tab up here, which will put it in a different tab, or you can drag it directly into your project file. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to drag all 5 in. And again, if you chose 1, that's fine. If you chose 6, it's fine. I'm just kind of going to demonstrate the basics of this. I'm going to make them all invisible for now. And just because I like to be organized, I'm going to throw them in a folder. So I'm just going to say backgrounds. Cool. Okay, so we got our cookie cutter, we got our backgrounds, and which one do I want to do first? Okay, I'm going to try this little light pink one. I'm just going to float it to the top, so I don't lose it later. And by the way, as you're going in here, depending on what the size of the original image was, I think it's 1920 by, let's find out. It's like the rose is 1920 by 1480, so if you get something bigger or smaller, you may need to adjust the size. So if you click on the layer, you can do Control-Alt-T, or you can go to, same way to get there is Edit, Transform, or sorry, Edit Free Transform, and that brings you here. You may need to resize it. That should be good. I wouldn't make something bigger necessarily because it's going to pixelate or blur it potentially. Although the benefit of a lot of these Pixabay pictures are high resolution, which is really great. But regardless. So I'm going to mute this for now, but keep an eye on that. We're going to go to our shape layer, the cookie cutter. And now you'll notice, so it's outlined, but it's not a selection. So there's a couple different ways you can do this. You can, if you have the path menu open, you can create selection from path or from shape or whatever. Very easy way though, and this is why you combine them all into one nice layer. Hold down Control, and then see this little square, this thumbnail on the bottom right? If you click on that, notice that this has all become a selection. Beautiful. So I'm gonna put that as invisible, and I'm going to bring up my background. I'm going to make that visible. Very important step that I always mess up. Make sure you click on that background layer, or else it's not going to copy paste correctly. And from here, you may want to move it around. So you can either hit V as the shortcut or click the move tool. And you may want to readjust where your background is, because maybe I want this to be on a certain petal or whatever. I'm fine with that. So the next step is to copy it, so Control-C. And now I'll just make some new layer. New layer here, you could go to layer, new layer up there. And then paste and make sure that this new layer is selected. And again, if we're on the layer, you won't see anything, click off the layer, and then you can click back on to see it. So now we can hide our backgrounds, and you'll notice that we have a gorgeous little rose that we created ourselves. And if we, and I will name this one that we did earlier, we can also show the petals, and there we go. So we've created one, but we can go and create actually a bunch more with all the backgrounds we did. So I'm just going to call this one, I'll just put finished flowers. I'm going to drag what we just did into there, and oops, come on. Okay, and now I'm just going to get a different background. So I'll hide my finished ones. All right, so we just did pink, and now, sure, why not? Let's do some hardwood flooring. So again, we're on the shape layer. We're going to do Control, click in that lower right-hand corner of the icon in the layer to get that thumbnail. We can see it. The selection is now up on our screen. Make sure you click on the new layer. And it's really hard to see the selection, but I promise you it's there. And so maybe I'll just move this around a tiny bit because I want a certain color to come through. Okay. Control-C. Control-V. Now we have another flower. Then put that in my finished flowers, and I'm going to go into the next backdrop. I'm gonna go for the lines. And oops, make sure you click on the right layer. I'm gonna adjust sizing a little bit. Let's Probably gonna be a little bit too small. Let's go 90. Okay. Make selection, click on the new layer, drag it around to get what you want selected. Make sure that your flower is completely within the realm of your backdrop, that it's not coming and spilling into this transparent area. Right, we will control new layer paste. And I want to make sure that goes in there. I will check that out later. Just going to move on to my next backdrop. Again, I did the same thing as earlier. Okay, let's do 90%. I'm just kind of keep repeating the process of what we were doing earlier. And once we look at all the ones that we did, it's going to be really cool. That'd be neat. I want to get that person in the bottom. Inside my petal. Very cool. Okay. Alright, so we did it for, I just did 5 backgrounds. And now let's take a look. So the newest one will be on the top. That one looks super cool. That's the raindrop one we did. The lines I did. Hardwood floor, and finally kind of pink speckles. And again, you can throw on the petals to grab those. You may also want to create a background layer to have something to throw it off against, like maybe just so it's clear to see. If you do Control A, you'll notice that the entire frame is selected, and notice I created a new layer to do this. So this is the 4 color. If you want to switch them at any time, you can hit X and they'll flip. Okay, so I've got 4 color, which is white, and now you can do Shift F5 or Edit Fill, and I'm going to fill again the foreground. Alright, and notice, so I've got that going on so I can clearly see. But another cool thing we could do for our flower petals that we've created, so I'm going to take away the white layer for now. But I'm looking at this flower, layer 6 is what I'm on right now. We're going to do a new effect called Stroke. Stroke is basically an outline that surrounds it, and it looks like last time I used red. But let's actually do black as a stroke. So this is the color the stroke is, and the size is how thick these lines are. So if we make them a little bit thicker, it kind of takes on this almost like cartoonish appearance. So I'm at 25 for size. Outside means that this is the shape and the stroke is going outside it. There's also inside, which would flip the stroke inside the shape. So it looks obviously very different. Or you can do center and it kind of balances between the two. I like to do outside, but it's your call. There's a lot of different blend modes, and I do not know how to explain them all to you. And opacity, again, we've played with opacity in the past when we were doing masks. That's just how strong the image is. If opacity is 0, it's invisible. 100%, it's absolutely solid. So anywhere in between makes it more or less visible to us. So something like that also, that looks really cool. So I'm actually just going to leave it 80% opacity. We could do the same thing for the petals if we wanted. And again, that's color overlay. So again, I'm going to do, ooh, sorry, I did not want color. Actually, that looks cool. Sorry, I did not explain. Color overlay throws basically a sheet over the entire layer. I didn't actually want color overlay, I wanted stroke. Cool, and I actually grabbed my settings from earlier with 25% and 80% opacity. Still using black, still using outside. And so, I've just done it on one flower, but as you can see, we have this really awesome kind of night sky with the person as the background I dropped, but again, you could have downloaded any number of patterns. And another way, so if this is your layer, you can either access that menu via effects, you can double click to bring the layer style up. And once you have applied it, you'll get some little, I forget, it's a little bit different on Photoshop, it's like FX or something. But this just stands for effect. If you click the arrow, it'll show you all the effects you had. So just to play around for a second, if I put a color overlay on this, we'd see it here, and I could either turn off all the effects, or I could just shut off color overlay, which is what I'm going to do here. And notice we only did it for this one layer. We could actually apply that same effect for all the finished flowers. So I could say I want everyone to have a stroke. That was not what I meant to say. Everyone can have all of the layers within the finished flowers folder can have the stroke effect applied. And notice it's going to double apply it to this because it's already here. But if I turn it off, there we go. So now notice all the flowers I have in here will have that applied. So use the folders to save yourself a little bit of time if you want to have consistent styles across multiple images. Yes, so today what we are working on, a few more shortcuts to help you move around in Photoshop or your preferred photo editor with a little bit more ease. Getting pictures from Pixabay is what I've been using. They have, as far as I can tell, the most or the largest collection. It's almost 2 million royalty-free, copyright-free photos for personal and commercial use. There's a couple other sources like Pexel and a few other sites, but by far Pixabay is worked the best for me this past couple of days. We're just kind of practicing using the pen again to trace out our little cookie cutter layer here. And honestly, we probably could have used that selection to create a mask and just dropped the backgrounds beneath the mask. That would have worked as well. Either way, we still would have had to create this shape. And this way we can organize it a little bit more easily. We also practice using some of the effects, namely stroke. Oh, and there's one last thing I wanted to show. So real quick, I'm just going to, I don't want the effects, okay. So I'm going to copy this layer and get it out of my folder because I don't want to mess with my previous work. Okay, so I have layer 6. Okay, so let's say this is going to be slightly odd. Okay, I'll make it work. So right now, notice we have this effect. And when we had it in the folder, we had 2 effects going. We had this 25 pixel stroke outline, and then we also had this one, so we ended up with a larger stroke than we needed. But when it's not in a folder and it's acting only on its own, we can only apply 1 stroke at a time. The cool thing though is that that's not entirely true. If we right click it, we can convert to a smart object. And what that basically does is it condenses all the effects, everything that's been applied to this layer. So it's just like a flat layer once more. So this no longer has actually a stroke applied to it because we took that off. But now notice we see the same thing we had when it was in a folder when it was being double or doubly applied. But maybe here, and let's just be kind of fun and adventurous. So I'm just going to grab that light purple color from inside the flower. Going to use the eyedropper, so I'm going to grab it from there. That looks a lot pinker now, so I'm going to go a little darker. Yeah, that looks better. I'm going to change the size of that one. Sure, 10 is fine. 80 is fine. So now you can see I have an effect again, and you can effectively just keep converting the smart object to condense it down. And then one other small thing that I wanted to demonstrate was, let's pretend I needed text on this for some reason. Alright, so Right, so I have this text here, and there's certain things you can do with text that you can't do with a normal layer and vice versa. So maybe I want to rotate the angle of the text, and it's kind of hard to do as it is now. And actually, let me just make this a little bit bigger because I have poor eyesight, and some of you may as well. Alright, so as a text layer, I can't do all the things I want to with it. However, if you right click and rasterize, notice first, it says a T on it, it's a text layer. When I rasterize it, it has ceased to become a text layer. I can no longer edit this text, per se. It's now being treated as an image instead, which means that I can pull up the transform menu that we were doing earlier and treat it like an image and rotate it and do all other cool things that I couldn't have done before, like warp it and such. So those were two little things utilizing the smart object and rasterizing text that I wanted to discuss before ending this video. And this was just something cool that I kind of learned on my own. I thought some of you might like to try this as well. So have fun, I guess, cookie cuttering, or if you have a better verb, let me know. So again, thanks for watching this video. All the resources for our other demos are on our website at cas.gvsu.edu/tilde-wig/resources.html. Our last video was Excel Basics, and one of the next videos I do will be kind of part 2 to Excel. And if you were really lost in this video, I would recommend watching the 521 minimalist vector art video, because I also covered some basics of Photoshop in there. But thanks for participating. Let me know how this goes for you.